Last time, last time, last time, last time, last time, last time. Yes, guys, we're now at the ranking of 10 to 1 of ranking all of the Star Trek original stories. Hello, guys, welcome. Or if you've already seen my channel before, welcome back. I am the Philadelphia Whovian, and yes, if you've seen my videos before this, you know we're ranking all these Star Trek original stories of the original Star Trek. Yes, I'm one of those strange people who absolutely loves watching original Trek. And without further ado, let's get into this, because you guys know that's what you came for. What are the top 10 stories that the Philadelphia Whovian thinks is great of the original Star Trek? So here we go. Guys, I know some of these stories might shock you. They're my top 10, but I love them. So here we go. Number 10. From season 2 of the original Star Trek, we have The Ultimate Computer. Okay, yes, guys, before there was HAL. In 2001, A Space Odyssey, there was the computer from The Ultimate Computer of Star Trek, where there was a famous inventor who revolutionized, the Federation technology on starships. He's come up with another idea, where a computer can run an entire starship. There doesn't need to be anyone on the crew, or little to no people on the actual starship. It can run the whole starship itself. So there's a set of war games where the Enterprise is chosen to participate in these war games to see how the computer does. And the inventor of the computer, okay, this guy, it's so obvious when he was young, he was a total hottie. I mean, this guy, the actor they got to play the inventor of this computer, had legs for days. He was gorgeous as an old man, so he must have been a sexy young guy. Either way, it turns out it's like HAL from 2001, A Space Odyssey, but before HAL ever existed. This computer starts out operating perfectly, to the point where it makes Captain Kirk feel completely uneasy because this computer is taking over his job. And he's even humiliated because this computer does his job very well. Other people acknowledge he's useless. And that's not fair to Captain Kirk at all. That is just painful to see it. But luckily, we don't have to see it for very long. This computer is salty in every single way. It just begins to kill innocent people even when it wasn't supposed to. It's just it's a worst nightmare of a computer on the ship. It is HAL before HAL ever happened. And that's always fun to watch. And eventually, they have to find a way to get it destroyed. And they do succeed ultimately in the end. And even Spock, who loves the idea of a computer being able to run everything, says no. Even though it is logical for a computer to run something, I still prefer to work under you, Captain Kirk. Gorgeous. Next we have up is number 9 from season 1, Balance of Terror. Guys, I believe, unless I'm mistaken, this is the story that introduced the Romulans. And the Romulans, at this point, okay, for clarification, if you've not seen Balance of Terror, this is a story that is a slow burn. It's like submarine warfare, but in space, where we have the Romulans who've been at war with the Federation before, but no one's actually seen Romulans until now. Spock or someone else on the Enterprise finds a way to get an image of the Romulans who've attacked their outpost. They do, and this is the first time anyone's ever feasted their eyes on Romulans. It turns out Romulans are an offshoot of Vulcans. So when they see the Romulans, they turn around and it looks just like the Spock. And Spock's like, oh my god, Romulans are like Vulcans. And they really are an offshoot of them. So that's often, I think, forgotten, as Romulans are an offshoot of Vulcans. But we see how Kirk is an incredible tactician, because the Romulan ship makes itself invisible until it has to strike, and it kills you with a really powerful weapon. So Kirk has to use all of his logical or abilities to kind of, read the enemy to find out when it will strike and how to save his crew, but also keep this ship from going back to the Romulan Empire to report their success so a war does not happen. And we see how the captain of the Romulans also does not want war either, and he's just doing this out of pure obligation. It's incredible. And we also see Mark Lenard play the Romulan, and he goes on later on to play Spock's father. Good repeated casting there. Next we have up is number 8. This is going to shock people for being so high, but I love it. The last episode of season 2, Assignment Earth. Okay, this was supposed to be the spin-off to another show that never happened, but it's great while it's here. Assignment Earth is the Enterprise intercepts a beaming down. There was a person who was beaming down to planet Earth, but there's an interception. And that interception, the person who's going to beam down to Earth gets caught on the Enterprise. So on the beam pad, there's a man with a black cat, and turns out he's from another planet. He was born on Earth, but he's from another planet where that's invisible, has superior technology. Even Spock's shoulder, where he makes you feel unconscious when he grabs your shoulder, that does not work on this person. And it turns out his mission is to go into planet Earth and stop a certain launch so that the planet Earth does not, destroy itself through, the idea of rockets and World War III, etc. and so forth. He's stopping planet Earth from destroying itself by making sure this rocket does not lift off. But of course, the Enterprise, Kirk, Spock, they don't know if he's really going down there for that reason or if he's going down there to make things worse. So they have to follow him to make sure he does not cause any damage. Luckily, everything works out in the very end. This is a good-looking episode. It's big, it's beautiful, it's gorgeous, it's got a lot to it. And the casting, the actor that got to play that agent who comes from that invisible planet, he is wonderful. He is gorgeous in his own way too. And again, all of the, the idea of the black cat, that cat is so cool. And also the secretary who helped him, that's cool too. I think the casting is wonderful. I think it looks good. I think the writing for this episode is also very good as well. Could just be me, but I love it. Number 7 from the first season. It's going to shock you for it not being number 1. Guys, all of these episodes in number 10 to 1 are very good. Number 7, Space Seed. Yes, everyone, it's Khan! This is the story that introduced Khan in the perfect way. It was awesome. Ricardo Montalban, you were glorious. You were glorious as Khan. This is not me disrespecting Benedict Cumberbatch, of course. I'm just saying, Ricardo was perfect as Khan in every single way. The story introducing them was pretty glorious also. It's a good story. It just is. End of story. And Khan is seductive. Okay, Khan's a seductive and disgusting son of a bitch all at the same time. He's charming, seductive, and disgusting all at once. And also the woman he fell in love with, that woman, she was a great actress and a gorgeous woman as well. Well done, dear. Well, good for you. Next we have up is number 6. I personally love this story. I don't know how other people feel about it, but I absolutely love it. From season 1, Arena. Arena starts out with a couple of the crew of the Enterprise are going down to an outpost part of the planet where they're going to meet somebody they know before who cooks really well. So they're going for a good meal. They're going there just to have a nice, good, luxurious meal. And they go to the outpost and it's completely destroyed by a civilization called the Garn. Or the Gorn. Guys, correct me. How do I pronounce that? The Garn? I'll say the Garn until someone corrects me. And so the first part of it is just Kirk, Spock, and a couple other of the crew literally surviving bombings in this outpost because it's still being bombed by the Garn. It literally is. And I was told in a special features of this, or like I read in a book, that actually they were using like real explosives, not real explosives, but real things to really trigger these things being erupted around Kirk and Spock. So I was told actually in this episode, Kirk and Spock, because of all of the explosions happening around them, they got a ringing in their ears that kept on affecting them all throughout the show. If that's the case, then it explains a lot about William Shatner's personality, because often when there's a ringing in your ears, that is an injury that comes from being in war, actual war, and bombs going off around you. It leads to you being foul-mouthed, having a bad temper, and just being, on edge a lot of times because of the ringing in your ears. But let me know in the comment section if I'm right about that. But I was told that this happened because of that. And this is real. This feels like Kirk, Spock, and all of them are really in a scary situation because the explosions are like right around them. And then they get back to the Enterprise and they find out what happened, and then they chase the Garn across space. And Spock is trying to be reasonable and say we should not attack them to kill them. But of course Kirk is angry. He's like, we're the only law out here. We have to kill them. They get stopped because the Garn and the Enterprise go to a part of space that is looked after by this superior alien species. So it takes Kirk and the captain of the other ship, of the Garn, onto a planet where it's just those two fighting it out. So, and the Enterprise crew has to watch Captain Kirk fight the Garn. And the Garn is this lizard-like creature. And guys, this is 1960s. So think of the costuming of the Garn. It's weird, but that's why I like it. Like, it is so 1960s, we clearly do not have the technology to make this look cool. But I love it. And then eventually Captain Kirk spares the Garn, and we find out that it wasn't as cut and dry as the Garn are bad and the outposts were good. Turns out the outposts were imposing upon the Garn's space, and so they attacked it because they were threatened first, they felt. It was complicated. But I'm sorry. Oh, God, I love this story. I never get sick of this story. It's just, it starts out full on action, and it just keeps going from there. And I love it. Next we have up is number 5. Another season 1 story, but I believe this one gets a lot of love. So I think people understand why I love this story so much. Devil in the Dark. The other Hyde episode of this show. For those who have seen my videos before on Star Trek, I say each season of the original Trek has this one story that reminds me of a story from Doctor Who that happened long after Trek called Hyde. That's this. Where there is a mining company or there is just some company that mines things underground. They're being attacked by a creature that is like made of metallic molten lava, and the Enterprise goes down there to help get rid of this threat. It turns out it's more complicated than that. And as it was with Arena, where Spock in the very beginning says we should not kill this creature because there's something else that might be going on here. And Kirk initially is against that. He's like, no, we should just kill it. He eventually comes around to Spock's way of thinking. See, Spock had an idea that there was something else going on here than just this creature's evil. And he finds out that this creature is silicon-based. And turns out this creature was not attacking the miners because it was evil. It was attacking them because it was protecting something else the miners were destroying. And Kirk comes around to Spock's logic. And we also see how Spock connects into a mind meld with this creature. And it's a really powerful moment at the same time. And it was in this filming of this episode that Kirk's father, I believe, died. And he had to come back and film after seeing his father's funeral. But correct me if I'm wrong about that. But this is a beautiful story. And it just, again, it shows the bond between Kirk and Spock that I just love so much. There's just something about those two men when they're together that creates a beauty that I cannot explain. Now we have up, and speaking of the beauty that cannot be explained by these two, next we have up is number 4. The episode that everybody says, how dare it not be number 1. Guys, I love it. It's just where it fell. City on the Edge of Forever. The second to last story of season 1. This is a story where Dr. McCoy, he stabs himself with some medication that makes him go absolutely insane. He beams down to a planet. On this planet is something called the Guardian. It's a thing where it's like a circular creature, or whatever it is, or ball of energy, whatever it is. It's a circular object where if you jump into it, you go back in time. When Bones jumped into it, he went back in time in a way that completely ruined the rest of history. So everything, like the starships, don't exist. The Enterprise does not exist. So only the people like Kirk, Spock, Uhura, and other people who are on this one planet, the couple of people, they're the only ones who exist. The rest of the universe probably no longer exists. It was destroyed, all because of something Dr. McCoy did. Kirk goes back, along with Spock, in time, a week before McCoy, Bones, goes to where he would have gone, to make sure they can prepare for when McCoy's there so they can undo anything he did. It turns out what McCoy had done was he saved the life of a woman named Edith Keeler. But Edith Keeler needed to die because something she did kept planet Earth, or kept the United States from joining something that ended up ultimately leading to something else being protected. Which means Edith Keeler, an innocent woman, had to die just so the universe could be saved. It gets more complicated. Captain Kirk fell madly in love with Edith Keeler, who was an exceptional woman, who was very intelligent, very beautiful, and very accomplished all at once. It was a painful thing to see, but he had to do it. You can see the trauma he experienced afterwards. I'm amazed that Captain Kirk did not lose his mind eventually, but he didn't, because he's Captain Kirk. And great performances all around. Great writing, great directing, and just great storytelling. Boom. Next up is number 3, from season 1, Tomorrow is Yesterday. What happens is the Enterprise had to get away from, I think, a collapsing like black star, so they just did a buoy thing where they accidentally got slingshotted across the universe, but they also fell back in time to the 1960s. So the Enterprise is literally flying above planet Earth in the 1960s. It gets mistaken for a UFO. A pilot goes on a ship up to investigate, took pictures of it, thinking it's a UFO. It gets beamed aboard, and it turns out that pilot got these pictures and sent them back to where, I believe whatever station he was from. So I don't know, I can't remember exactly where. But either way, there's evidence now of the Enterprise on planet Earth. So Captain Kirk and the pilot and Spock and others have to go down to to planet Earth, in America, in the United States, to get these pictures, so there's no evidence of them. But it gets even better than that. By going back in time a little bit, they're able to even erase the pilot seeing the ship to begin with, and therefore erase anything about themselves in history, and also getting back to their own time. This is just a fun story. I don't want to say fun, it's well written, well acted, everything about it is really good, it's really clever. This story is iconic for a reason. I'm sorry if you guys think it's City on the Edge of Forever deserves to be here first. They're all good stories, these top 10. They're all good. What do you want? What do you want? Next we have up is number 2. Yes, this might shock you from it being higher than City on the Edge of Forever and Tomorrow's Yesterday, but I love it. From Season 2, The Changeling. Sorry, this is a great story. So it turns out there was a probe called Nomad, which was sent out in space to explore new worlds and get information about new life. It got supposedly destroyed, but no, it didn't. It got damaged. But there's another probe that actually joined with it, and I think it was called Tanru. And this probe was sent to purify and sterilize corrupt soil places, so making another planet, so a planet could be inhabitable for people to come to. But when they fused together, the directive got wrong, which is to sterilize impure entities, which means whatever that the changeling, Nomad, comes in contact with, it sterilizes it if it's not perfect, which means that it's going to kill everyone in the universe because nothing is really perfect. But they got lucky. Before the Changeling or Nomad destroyed the Enterprise, it thought that Captain Kirk was its creator, so it came on the Enterprise, and Spock finds out really quickly what's going on. Nomad thinks that Kirk is its mother. But we see an incredible... Another great Kirk and Spock moments. We see Spock have to touch Nomad to find out what happened. And you see just Spock leaning against Nomad. His eyes are dark as he's really reading this creature. And you see Kirk grab Spock because Nomad won't let Spock go. And he has to shake Nomad's power over Spock, and we see this bond between them. And then at the end of it, we see Kirk use logic to destroy Nomad, which he does at one of my favorite Spock-Kirk interactions, where Spock says to Kirk at the end, "Well done, sir. A fantastic display of logic." And Kirk says back, "You didn't think I had it in me, did you?" And Spock just says, "No, sir," and walks away. Oh, this is a great story. This story, I hear almost no one talk about it. I'm sticking to my guns. I think it's awesome. Next we have up is number 1, my personal favorite. I know it's going to shock you, but I absolutely love it. Number 1 from Season 2, The Doomsday Machine. Guys, this happened before Jaws, so I'm saying it's like this. No, Jaws came second, this came first. This story is Jaws in space. No, literally, it's Jaws in space. Okay, so the Enterprise comes across a solar system that has been completely destroyed by an entity. And they come across also a spaceship that has nobody on it except for its captain, who beamed his entire crew down once he lost all power. He beamed them onto a planet to save them. But no, turns out this entity destroyed the entire planet, and he had to watch and listen as his crew called up to him to beg him to let them on board. He couldn't because he had no power, so he accidentally killed his entire crew. He's suffering from trauma from it, but he eventually figures out what to do. He, in his passionate, angry, irrational state, launches a shuttle into this creature and weakens it, and that's how they get the idea of literally flying the damaged ship into this entity, and that's how they fully destroy it. But this entity, what am I talking about? This is like a shark in space. It's a triangular cone of a metallic thing with just inferno inside of it, and it just eats everything. It's like Jaws, but in space. fantastic moment, especially where at the end, where Kirk has to be beamed aboard, and Spock is like, Mr. Scott, get him aboard. And Scotty can't do it, but he gets it eventually. It's perfect. He's like, Mr. Scott. Just Spock is just gorgeous. Fantastic episode. Jaws in space. That's my ranking. Hope you guys had a fun time. Guys, this was great. Thank you. You guys were absolutely wonderful. Guys, thanks again. This was fun, though. Enjoy yourselves. Bye, guys.